Welcome to the Larry Elder Show. Man, what a week. One of the many reasons that I ran for president was to raise awareness about how bad education is K through 12 here in America. The reason that the Democrats keep winning the black vote is to keep pushing this narrative that America remains systemically racist.
Larry Elder is one of the most infamous black conservatives in America. A former Democrat, he made his name as a talk show radio host. 3 years ago, he unsuccessfully ran for governor of California, and most recently for the Republican presidential nomination, before dropping out of the race and endorsing Donald Trump.
This is a man who people say is an aspiring tyrant, a dictator in the making, someone who is facing 91 felonies and has just been ordered to pay nearly $500 million in fraud and defamation cases. Why are you supporting him?
Because he ran for president, got elected in 2016, excellent economy, low inflation, energy independent, borders were secured, no new wars, our friends respected us, our enemies feared us. What's not to like?
As one of the staunchest supporters of Trump, I want to find out why Larry is so loyal to him.
Why do you and so many other Republicans see Donald Trump as the #1 person who can make this country great again?
I didn't run to displace Donald Trump. I figured that he was going to be the nominee, but I thought that even he was not talking about a couple of issues that I think are absolutely important. The #1 issue facing this country domestically, in my opinion, particularly for black people, is what I call the epidemic of fatherlessness. 70% of black kids today enter the world without a father in the home married to the mother. And the numbers are clear. If you're raised without a father, you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail.
So he's got your number.
He's got
if
my
he
number.
does decide to call you up and say, hey Larry, listen, I think you're a great guy. You dropped out of the presidential race and you endorsed me. That was very loyal of you. Would you serve in my administration? What do you say?
Depends on the job. He's already asked me to be a delegate to the Democratic Convention in Milwaukee, and I've agreed to do that. He's also asked me to sit on a commission called the Social Status of Black Men and Black Boys, and I'm on that commission. So if he calls, I will take the call. It won't go to voicemail.
What would be your ideal job?
Again, it's not going to happen. If he offered me vice president, I would take it. It's not going to happen, but if he did, I absolutely would take that.
So what do you then say to the likes of Mike Pence, his former vice president, who's refused to endorse him?
It should come as no surprise that I will not be endorsing Donald Trump this year.
I like Mike Pence, and when I was running, he was one of the competitors, and we had a lot of conversation. I think he's a very nice man and a decent man and an honorable man. We just respectfully disagree. I think he thinks that Donald Trump on January 6th was making an argument that undermined our democracy, and I disagree. All Donald Trump did was make the same argument that Democrats did in 2000 when George W. Bush beat Al Gore and they tried to decertify Florida. So Democrats have made the same argument, and Hillary ran around for 4 years referring to Donald Trump as illegitimate and said that the election was stolen. Her word, not mine. Nobody called her an election denier, but we question elections and we're called election deniers. It's a double standard and it's unfair.
Trump has made the January 6th attack and its failed attempt to overturn the 2020 election a key issue at his campaign events. Over its 2 centuries at the heart of America's democracy, the U.S. Capitol has seen violence, chaos and mayhem. It was even set on fire by British troops during the War of 1812. But it had never been invaded by a mob determined to stop the constitutional transfer of power.
Trump's mob wasn't a peaceful protest. It was a violent assault. They were insurrectionists, not patriots. They weren't there to uphold the Constitution. They were there to destroy the Constitution. Trump won't do what an American president must do. He refuses to denounce political violence. So hear me clearly. I'll say what Donald Trump won't. Political violence is never, ever acceptable in the United States political system. Never, never, never. It has no place in a democracy, none.
So can I ask you then about January 6th, insurrection? I know that's a big issue.
You said insurrection. Sorry, it's a riot, not insurrection. That right there is bias. The whole notion that it's an insurrection. How many people who were arrested and charged, have been charged with insurrection? Zero. Has Donald Trump been charged with insurrection? No, he wasn't. There's a specific definition of insurrection, and what happened on January 6th does not fit it. It was a riot. I don't defend it. I don't justify it. The people that did it should have been arrested and should have been prosecuted, but not a single one has been prosecuted for insurrection. It is just not true. And on January 6th, that day when Donald Trump gave that famous speech that people quote out of context, he also said, I want you to, quote, peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard, end of quote.
Donald Trump describes these supporters who broke the law as hostages who love the United States. 950 of them have so far been convicted over the last 3 years. The 77-year-old continues to make his case to the US Supreme Court that January 6 was part of his official duties as president, and he should therefore be immune from prosecution. But if that argument is rejected, he could be forced to stand trial on conspiracy charges.
I don't believe that the Supreme Court is going to go along with the idea that a president is above the law for life after leaving office. I just don't think they're going to go along with that. And it's against a lot of precedents in American law.
If anyone knows what it takes to go up against someone like Trump, it is this former government prosecutor.
We knew it was a big deal at the time. It was a major case. We were alleging $42 million worth of fraud. But of course, we never could have dreamed exactly how much bigger this case ended up looming ultimately because of Trump becoming president.
As Attorney General, Tristan led a civil fraud case against Trump's university that resulted in a $25 million payout just days after the 2016 election. He has now written a book advising prosecutors overseeing Trump's other criminal cases on how to take him down.
The words that are carved into the front of the Supreme Court are equal justice under law. We think about Lady Justice, she's blindfolded and she, doesn't exactly know who she's judging and what the outcome is going to be and who that's for. If we say that a president is an exception to that, it's equal justice under law, ... except for presidents, where does that stop? Does it end with a governor, a member of Congress, somebody who's just very wealthy and doesn't feel like being held accountable? If we let that drop as a principle, that is not something that's even peculiar to America, of course. It is something that we've had in most major civilizations for hundreds, if not thousands of years. But if we remove that as a pillar of the American system, it is something that I think the entire world should shudder to see, because I think it could have cataclysmic consequences, not just in America, but for the whole world.
Do you think that Trump is dangerous?
I think that, unfortunately, he's one of the most dangerous people on planet Earth. There's just no way around it. It's not just about whether you're a liberal or a conservative. It's about whether you believe in the rule of law and a system that is of justice and of law and not of, individual fiat. Are there people in a society that are above the law or are there not? Do we want to live in a society like Putin's Russia, where you have Putin and the other oligarchs who can literally commit murders and fraud and all sorts of corruption, and they are completely unaccountable? Or do we want to live in a society where when even the most powerful commit a crime or some other misdeed, that they are held accountable?
He is the first former president to face 91 felonies across 4 cases, all of which he denies.
The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware has received 306 votes. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 232 votes.
Mike Pence defied calls in 2020 by his former boss to stop Joe Biden from becoming president, a move that infuriated Trump.
Do you think he has any role or any responsibility in what happened on that day?
Donald Trump made the same argument that the VP had the power to reject certain states, as Democrats made in 2000, as Democrats made in 2004, as Democrats made in 2016. Do you remember when Donald Trump got elected, Some people put together a video, including Martin Sheen, the actor who played president, urging the electors not to certify the election for Donald Trump, which would have been, in my opinion, illegal for them to have done. That's what they did. No one could accuse them of undermining our republic, but Donald Trump does the same thing these guys did, made the same legal arguments he did, and not only is he being accused of insurrection, but his lawyers are facing disbarment for making the same argument that Democrat lawyers made in 2000, 2004, and 2016. It is outrageous.
He still frequently pushes the false claim that the last election was rigged against him due to voter fraud. In North Carolina, I meet 67-year-old Shirley, who is furious that the country is stuck with just a president and his predecessor.
My vote is not going to count, okay? So I don't vote. I don't even...
That's quite depressing to hear.
Yeah,
I mean, politicians tell us all the time we should vote because it's important.
And we shouldn't, because they're going to put who they want to in there anyway.
She paints a troublesome picture of poor access to healthcare and the endurance of racial inequality contributing to her personal struggles.
I'm considered as a poor black woman. I lost my house. I'm in the shelter living. Oh man, it's sad.
With the rising cost of living, Shirley tells me she survives on just $20 a week and is yet to feel the impact of Biden's economic policies.
No one can win my vote until God let me know who I'm voting for and why. Only God can tell me that, and that's who I trust and believe and vote in.
All of this points to just how vulnerable the two candidates are. I've come to Los Angeles to meet Marianne Williamson, a Democrat who is currently running for president.
How emotional has this all been for you, Marianne?
American politics is a psychological blood sport. It's tough. It's real tough.
Have you had sleepless nights?
Have I had sleepless nights? Yeah, I've had sleepless nights.
Biden has already won the delegates needed for his second nomination, but Marianne, who recently suspended, then unsuspended her campaign, is refusing to quit.
We know for certain Joe Biden will be going up against Donald Trump.
No, we don't know for certain.
Well, as of right now, we can say...
Right now he is the candidate and Trump is the candidate, and that's certainly the highest probabilities, yeah.
When you decide to drop out of the race, will you endorse Joe Biden?
I will not do anything ever that I feel would increase the possibility of Donald Trump being back in the White House. That's the principle that guides my decision making.
So you will most likely endorse him?
I will not do anything that I feel will help Donald Trump get back in the White House.
You will most likely do so through gritted teeth?
We still have a ways to go before November.
Can we touch on Donald Trump?
Sure. Okay.
It feels as though he is someone who you think about a lot. And he's supporters.
I try not to.
And the fact that his policies and what he stands for and what he's about is something that you've been sort of banging the drum and sounding the alarm about.
I wouldn't have run. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't feel very deep concern about what will happen to my country if he becomes president again.
What do you think will happen?
I don't think he has deep-seated respect for the traditions and the principles of American democracy. I don't even know if he knows what they are. There have been many people who have worked very closely with him in his administration who have said that he doesn't, who are now coming out. Bill Barr, John Bolton, all kinds of people. This is hardly a unique position. He's, you know, I'm not a psychologist, but people have called him, people who are, have called him a malignant narcissist.
This is Marianne's second presidential campaign, but this time round, she says it has been bruising. She believes that sexism and the double standards women are held to in public life has held her back.
It's been astonishing to me. In my career, I had a 40-year career before any of this, and I never felt that being a woman in any way hindered me or limited anybody else's perception of me. In politics, I never even knew what the word misogyny meant, really. I didn't understand it on a visceral level. If something happens in Bobby Kennedy's campaign, or Vivek Ramaswamy's campaign, or any man's campaign, it's described one way. If the exact same thing happens in my campaign, I'm described as a crazy woman. So yeah, my being a woman, I've seen, but I also have to say that a lot of it came from women.
I was reading online a few comments about you, and it's important, I guess, to look at the other side and hear what people are saying. And one of the things I kept seeing was she's with the fairies. She's not serious. She lives in this cuckoo land. She doesn't have policies or strategies that's in the real world.
Well, first of all, there's a term contempt prior to investigation. The part that is objectionable about what you just said is that it's absolutely false. Go to Marianne2024.com. Look at my issues page. Tell me any candidate who has had such serious, well-articulated, laid-out policy positions. So number one, it's just not even true. And number two, anybody who's heard me speak knows that it's not true.
So it's your strategy to stay in this as long as you can. Potentially Joe Biden might have to drop out for health reasons, or he might decide at the very last minute, actually, I don't want to do this anymore. And then you potentially then step up. Is that what this is all about?
No, No, I mean, the way the system operates, they wouldn't be any more open to me in that circumstance than they have been. I understand that. I'm not naive here or delusional. However, the things that I'm talking about are what matter. I'm not what matters. Medicare for all is what matters. I'm not what matters. The fact that 75 to 90 million people in this country are uninsured or underinsured, that's what matters. The fact that over 1 million people are rationing their insulin is what matters. The fact that the president could use the Higher Education Act and eliminate the entire college loan debt. The fact that people in their 20s are carrying tens of thousands of dollars worth of college loan debt, that's what matters. The fact that people aren't able to get child care and they have to work 2 or 3 jobs to make it happen. The fact that people are skipping meals, the fact that people are selling their blood plasma. It's not about me.
What will a Trump presidency mean for Great Britain, for example?
From all indications, European leaders are not excited about the prospect of a second Trump presidency, and I can understand why. He bashes Europe. I mean, he just, it was very embarrassing to watch as an American.
It has been pretty surreal watching Trump move back and forth from the courthouse to the campaign trail.
And they indicted me on this all.
Here in Manhattan, I was inside that room for his civil fraud trial, and I remember when he walked in, there was just complete silence. I was in fact sitting not too far behind him, and even though I couldn't see his face, I could just feel the anger and frustration. Perhaps it's deliberate or not, but those appearances followed by his speeches have now essentially become part of his campaign messaging.
We have a judge who I believe is a crooked judge and a crooked attorney general, absolutely crooked.
A lot of people have said the thought of him returning to the White House is a bit like taking a match and setting this entire country on fire. Why do you think people are so afraid of him?
Was the country on fire when he was president? I'll tell you what, in November 2016, when he won, there were protests, including violent protests, in 40 cities all over America. Police cars set on fire, all because Hillary's supporters were very unhappy that she lost. What makes you think that Donald Trump supporters are any more violent than Hillary supporters when these kinds of things have happened? It's just incredibly, incredibly unfair.
The 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
The Biden campaign is a huge billion-dollar operation, warning voters about the dangers of Trump winning a second term. Republicans, though, have made a decision to support the former president, who now openly compares himself to the infamous gangster Al Capone, joking about the number of alleged crimes he has been charged with. But Capone's rise and fall is no laughing matter.
So at a certain point, he just needs to realize that it's over and that it's time for him to fade into retirement. And unfortunately for him, or probably fortunately for all of us, I think that retirement is going to be in a federal prison ultimately.